Colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. Thank you very much to join today's session. As you know, my name is Luís Kimaid. I'm the Executive Director of Bússola Tech. We are a global think tank that promotes discussions and research about parliamentary modernization and digital transformation. It's my honor to moderate this panel about artificial intelligence and the future of citizen interface within parliaments and congresses. And I have the distinct honor to welcome dear friends and colleagues here in this panel today, as Fitsilis from the Hellenic Parliament in Greece, Jurgens Piterse from the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, Stephen Dwyer from the US House of Representatives, and Mr. Singh from HawkAItrack. So welcome all of you. For colleagues, they always ask this, this is being recorded and this is going to be made available at the shortest in 24 hours in our platform for you to rewatch or for you to get the necessary insights to produce a report or things similar to it. So answering this up front, no worries, all of you will get this recording very soon. And well, before I even start the panel, maybe I'd like to yield the floor to each one of our guests today so they can properly introduce themselves. I'll do this alphabetically if you allow me. Fotios, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues?
Certainly, Luís, this is Fotios Fitsilis, dear colleagues and friends from all around the world. I have, since 2007, I work in the Hellenic Parliament. This is the National Unicameral Parliament of Greece. And since this year, I am also an academic and a professor for AI and parliamentary governance at the Universidad Austral in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Thank you very much, Fotios. Jurgens, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues as well?
Thank you. Yes. Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. My name, as you've heard, is Jurgens Piterse, and since 2010, I've served as the Management Information Systems Manager at the Parliament of South Africa. Over the years, my focus has been on building data-driven solutions and to strengthen Parliament's oversight role, particularly in tracking how well government is delivering on its national development targets. And more recently, I've been leading the development and rollout of a digital transformation strategy designed to unlock greater value for members of Parliament from our communication and information systems. And then naturally, AI has now entered that strategy as both an opportunity and a pressure point in that space. I've been closely involved in evaluating AI options, testing proof of concepts, exploring particular use cases, and assessing the costs and risks of implementation. So my perspectives come less from chasing the hype and more from treating AI as one of a larger system that must remain accountable, sustainable, and above all, trustworthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jurgens, for your introduction. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself for the colleagues?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy to be here and love these events, Luís. Thank you for hosting them and sharing and getting to meet so many people around the world. I work for the Chief Administrative Officer, so an officer of the U.S. House of Representatives. I am Senior Director of Innovation. I am head of the House AI Center of Excellence, we call it. It's really just a group of internal staff that are all been working a whole lot on AI on all fronts. I've been here for about 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for one particular member of the U.S. House who was in leadership for 20 years. And so currently the AI work is focused on sort of, examining all of the various commercial offerings that many of our staff are already using and wanting to use, but also lots of custom integrations for the institution, like transcriptions and analyzing all of our big data sets and everything. So excited to have the conversation here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your introduction. I'd like to yield the floor to Vishu for his introduction as well. Vishu, please feel free to introduce yourself for the colleagues.
Yeah, thank you, Luís. Hello, everyone. I am Vishwajit Singh. I am co-founder of an AI-driven tech company, namely HawkAItrack Technologies. And we are focused on building scalable, ethical, and content-aware solutions for governance and as well as for public infrastructure. It's a great privilege to be a part of this global forum today. And I thank Bússola Tech and Mr. Luís. And currently, we are doing a project for Parliament of India, which enables accurate, searchable access to video proceedings. So this involves synchronizing of official debate text or transcripts or Hansard with videos, adding rich metadata, deploying searchable contextual search, and hence bringing more transparency, more engagement of citizens to the forum. So as we negotiate through the session, I look forward to exchanging the ideas with my colleagues, with fellow panelists, and to learn from their diverse experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your introduction as well. And well, I hope we have a very interesting conversation today about a topic that I think is at the utmost importance. How can we use these tools not only to improve the efficiency of the legislative process and legislative procedures, but also to make the information more accessible in a friendly manner for citizens in a way that this changes how citizens interact with our parliamentary institutions, not only how we change the internal operations of our work on a day-to-day basis. And well, I'd like to yield the floor to each one of you for your brief opening presentation of 5 minutes. I'll follow the alphabetic order again, if you allow me. Fotios, would you like to share your thoughts on this opening presentation, on your view of the current state of AI tools applied to these public interface platforms and parliaments and legislatures? For example, the websites, applications, or even generative models that have been made available for the citizens to interact with parliamentary information. Please feel free to share your thoughts and your ideas on what you think is the current state of the use of AI in parliaments on this, and in particular, if you want to share, of course, about the Hellenic Parliament as well.
Certainly, Luís. How many hours do I have at my disposal? Well, I hope I will try to be very concise, and probably my friends, fellow panelists will agree with me. There's no homogeneous, let's say, distribution of such uses across the globe. Our studies rely on parliamentary data that we get out of various platforms. For instance, the IPU, the Interparliamentary Union, that has published in late 2024 sort of a survey of 65 use cases. And in addition, we rely on own studies that we have done a couple of years earlier, so in late 2022, where we also surveyed a set of parliaments. So what I will try to say for a few minutes now, it's by no means representative, but it might give the people that watching us a rough understanding how the use of AI in parliament looks like in the public sphere. I'm not going to talk about internal systems. So it's very interesting that public engagement platforms, and that's quite astonishing as a matter of fact, is one of the few, maybe 4 or 5 main areas of usage of AI tools and services. Nobody would have expected that. I mean, I didn't expect that until I saw it. I would expect as maybe natural to have internal tools for dealing with internal issues, administrative issues. I mean, to have tools for lawmaking or for information filtering, analysis, finding, and so on. All this exists, but at the same time, it comes as a finding from these studies that public engagement mechanisms are supported, or the administration of Parliament or the political leadership of Parliament looks toward facilitating the public engagement. So this is big. So how does this look like specifically? I will speak about that in the follow-up discussion, because as it seems, this interaction, I mean, between Parliament and the public sphere, takes manifold ways and mechanisms. So as a consequence, there are various tools and services that are being applied. And by the way, Brazil is one of the pioneers there. Through I think one or two of the systems in the original Ulysses suite. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fotios, for your contribution. Jurgens, would you like to share your view as well? And of course, what is happening currently at the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa?
Thank you for the question, Louis. Yes, as an industrial engineer by profession, working with systems thinking and enterprise architecture, I tend to frame AI not just as technology, but as a component within a much larger ecosystem. And if we look honestly at the current state of AI in our parliamentary platforms, there isn't any. You won't find AI-driven features on our website. No generative models responding to citizens, no smart apps extending services outwards in terms of direct implementation. You can basically say currently it's at a zero level. But from a systems perspective, zero implementation doesn't mean zero activity. What's happening now is the groundwork, the upstream work in the architecture. We are running internal proof of concept projects, carefully bounded with insecure environments, using only publicly available data so that we don't compromise them. In system terms, this is about testing subsystems before exposing them to the external environment. We are asking, what are the inputs? How do they flow? Where are the risks? What other human-driven system needs to be in place? And what value can be reliably created from those systems? The decision to keep these experiments internal was deliberate. In a parliamentary system, trust is the governing principle. If we rush into AI into a public layer without ensuring data integrity, accountability, and ethical safeguards, we don't just risk technical errors, we destabilize confidence in the institution itself. And once trust is lost, as you know, the whole system suffers. So that is why right now our focus is on capacity building from an enterprise architecture view. This means strengthening internal capabilities, staff training, improving document management, enhancing knowledge retrieval, and experimenting with summarization tools. These might not appear to be back office functions or even something to celebrate about, but in systems analysis, these are the critical enablers. If the internal architecture is weak, the external interface will also fall under pressure. Take legislative data as an example. Our parliament produces vast volumes of it, bills, debates, committee reports. Without AI navigating that landscape is resource intensive. With AI, even in a controlled internal environment, we can start surfacing patterns and insights for our members and researchers. That's a subsystem improvement that once we stabilize that and safeguarded it, that can be scaled outwards to our service citizens directly. So again, to answer your question plainly, we are not yet at the point of AI on public platforms, but in system terms, that is an acceptable and even necessary state. We are still aligning the architecture, we are calculating the requirements and the limitations, and we reinforce the integrity of the system. When the citizen-facing components eventually come online, they won't be quick fixes or flashy experiments. They will be robust, secure, and integrated solutions that genuinely strengthen democratic transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jurgens, for your opening presentation. Steve, would you like to share your thoughts on this as well?
Sure. So I would say that the state of the U.S. Congress is very similar to what Jurgen just described in South Africa, where we are actively experimenting and using different tools internally, but not yet using too many externally, although there is some start of that. One thing that we had some breaking news just last week. We hosted the group that I work with is the Digital Service, the House Digital Service, and we hosted a big hackathon in the U.S. Capitol building. We had 250 people there. It was very exciting. And of course, all anyone wanted to talk about was AI. The Speaker of the House came and spoke, and he broke news, which is that we in the House have entered an agreement with Microsoft Copilot for all of our staff. So this is, again, Luís, it does not answer your question since you want to know about public tools, but this is an internal tool. But that, just the same point that Jurgen just made, we're focusing mostly on internal first, I think, to get us all comfortable with and knowledgeable about all these different tools. Of course, Microsoft was somewhat of an easy solution for us since our email and documents were already in sort of Microsoft Cloud. So now to have a native AI agent for all staff, we think will produce real efficiencies for the internal operations of all of our congressional offices. Not that we're sticking only with Microsoft. We still use ChatGPT quite a bit, and Claude and other products as well, trying to not be reliant on one vendor, especially in this space. But that's internal. Now, you know, externally, most of our public platforms, yeah, we don't have AI. There's some exceptions. Some members of Congress, some MPs, they really want to use even just chatbots, you know, some of the more techie forward members. And they are sometimes using it internally, where they will have all of their interns and junior staff that answer the phones be using sort of AI-powered chatbots that just get all the information. That in itself is an extended test, because I think those offices definitely want to push those types of products to the public. But it's just a much bigger level of comfort that you have to have with that technology when you push it to have the public use it directly rather than indirectly through the people answering the phones. So that's one example. Another example is, you know, we really strive to make all of our data open from the U.S. Congress, as most Congresses and parliaments do. And therefore, the commercial sector is far ahead of us because our data is open. So you do see some very interesting AI systems with congressional data, but most of them, the best ones that you see now, are expensive and used by lobby shops. So, you know, the industry trying to influence Congress. But that is, you know, a good thing to pay attention to, because that is where the advanced research is, and the development and money that's going into these systems. Now, so, you know, we internally, of course, like to keep an eye on that to see what's possible with using AI with congressional data, legislative data. And, you know, we are actively working, like Jurgen was just saying, you know, we're experimenting internally with MCP servers to tie into all these different data sources. And we're building different experiments and sandboxes to use tools like AWS Bedrock and Azure and others to sort of experiment on these and to find value and use cases, as Fotios was explaining. They're very verifiable and use cases. So we're doing all those things, but we're doing them internally, and we're only releasing them sort of a limited basis to different staff and members to get us comfortable with it. I think it's going to be another year or longer before a lot of these experiments bear fruit in the public sphere, in the public domain. But we think that is certainly coming, and there's great potential to greatly improve the relationship with the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your thoughts. Very interesting as usual. I'd like to invite you, Vishu, to share your thoughts with us, and specifically what you're working on the Parliament of India in regards to this domain. Please feel free to use the floor.
I'll share. This is basically, I'll just give it a brief on it if I'm unable to share, because I don't know what's it. So this is, we have around 18,000 hours of legacy videos proceedings of the Parliament, which Parliament wanted to be searchable and retrievable. So what we have done is we have applied an AI solution. This solution, what it does is it synchronizes, as I was telling earlier, the Hansard, the official debate text, with the videos. So there's no, as it isn't speech to text, so the occurrence of mistakes is zero because it's matching with the official debate text. So, and moreover, it is these are time-stamped, and say a video is of 1 hour or 3 hours or 2 hours. If a speaker who is searched starts speaking at 43rd minute, so it will directly go to the 43rd minute. So you don't have to scroll it all over. So these are a few of the salient features, and I'll share the presentation with you once, because I don't know what is happening as such. So this is what we are doing with it. So, and it has come to the use of general citizens as well, the general public as well, and as well for the research and referral team of the Parliament as well. Because whatever they want to do, or whatever they want to search or research about a member or about a subject, and so they can easily do it with just with the help of keyword search, or what we have put in is now advanced search. That's AI based. So, so it involves your contextual search. Say if you are asking about fuel, so they will cover petrol, diesel, everything. They'll come into that. So if you are coming inquiring about say employment, so it will cover jobs, hiring, everything. So everything is covered in there. And you have put up many filters in this. Filters are number, session number, like we call it lower house number, then the session number, and the members, and the special folders for prime ministers, presidents, and speakers. So all these things we have done on that. So in the end, if I'll try to put show it the live also in case we get the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishu, for your opening presentation. If you allow my suggestion, there is an option here in the chat to share the presentation. Maybe, yeah, maybe colleagues can access the file since we had this little glitch with Zoom that didn't allow you to share your screen. But thank you for your opening presentation. And well, I'd like to bring my first question to you, and I'll start with Fotios again, if you allow me. Fotios, one of the main bottlenecks of using AI in parliamentary platforms, both internally and externally, is data. And when it comes to public interface platforms, this is no different. We need the data to make these systems work. So how do you approach the challenge of transforming legacy parliamentary data into more structured and machine-readable formats, both text, video, and audio, so that it can effectively be effectively integrated with modern AI tools? Fotios, if you want to share your thoughts in 5 minutes.
Sure. So this is maybe the first thing when one gets to start working with any type of digital platforms, regardless whether they are relying on AI, machine learning, modern generative tools, or more old-fashioned, let's say, machine learning algorithms. One gets to know that one has to rely on data. Now, what happens in Parliament is the following. I mean, when it's now 2025, right? But we started working on that like 15 to 20 years ago, and I'm referring now to my own parliament. And back then there was no data at all, or very limited data, and even if they were available, I mean, to us internally, there were no open, in the open access idea that we have now about open data. So there are at least two options one parliament may think of. First of all, one needs to draw a line. The line needs to be drawn, let's say, to today. What happens from today on will happen according to a certain structure and approach regarding data always. And then one has to decide what happens with the old data, meaning the data before the line has been drawn. One option is, dear colleagues and friends who's listening, we don't deal with that at all. We disregard completely the old data. And we start from now on, based on a standardized data structures and standards that are in the meantime available. I quote here legal doc ML, which is called also, used to be called a Comantoso. This is a valid global OASIS standard. OASIS is the standardization body. So one can choose to apply this to the new data that is being generated from now on. As said, for the working operation of the parliament, it is quite debatable if you actually need all data. But as a matter of fact, for continuity purposes, for historical purposes, and for archiving purposes, one has to seriously think what to do with all the old data, which might not be digitized at all, and how to transfer it slowly maybe, but still, how to transfer this into the state of play of today's data handling. So to wrap this up, my answer up, I would say these are several strategic discussions and debates that the Parliament has to take. First of all, regarding today's and the future data, and at a secondary level about the old data. In the long run, I would say, within the context of a holistic data management approach, Parliament needs to fully digitize and bring the entire data set, their entire data on a single, within a single, very well-defined, standardized framework.
Thank you very much, Fotios, for your considerations. Jurgens, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yes, Louis, you are absolutely right. Data is both the bottleneck and the breach. Without well-prepared data, AI is little more than a promise. With it, however, the possibilities are wide open. from a systems perspective, the challenge is not just about building smarter models. It's about preparing the ground they stand on. In general systems theory, we call this working on the upstream conditions before expecting downstream performance. And for parliaments, those upstream conditions are our legacy records, decades of text, video, and audio that holds the institutional memory, but which were never designed to be machine readable. Much of it sits in scanned PDFs or in videos files without transcripts or in audio recordings with no metadata to anchor them. The first step then is to digitize and structure, converting text into formats I can understand, creating accurate transcripts for debates and committee meetings, tagging and annotating those records so that they can be linked and searched. It's not a glamorous task. It doesn't make headlines, but as an engineer, again, I see it as the essential infrastructure. If the foundation is weak, the whole system collapses when you add weight. Alongside this technical work, we also have to address digital rights management. Making data accessible is not enough. We must ensure that it is legally and ethically usable. Citizens need confidence that Parliament respects intellectual property, data privacy, and usage boundaries. That's why we're currently evaluating DRM solutions as part of our architecture. It gives us a framework so that when we eventually launch the citizen-facing AI tools, we are not only technically capable, but also legally compliant and ethically grounded in what we are doing. There's also a cultural dimension that we must consider here. For too long, data was treated as byproducts, sometimes stored but not actively managed. In business analysis terms, we're shifting to a model where data itself is treated as an asset, where it is structured, annotated, and maintained with care. Because AI is ultimately an amplifier, Luís, if the data is messy, if it's inaccessible or legally uncertain, then AI will amplify those weaknesses. But if the data is clear, if it's structured, and you've got the rights cleared, AI amplification leads to better transparency and trust instead. So, to put it plainly and summarize, the work of transformation is slow, it's careful and foundational, but it is essential. Once those building blocks are in place, structured text, searchable transcripts, metadata, and clear rights management, we can integrate AI in a way that is not just functional, but also trustworthy. Without that preparation, AI in Parliament remains an unrealized potential. With it, AI becomes a tool that generally connects citizens to the working of their democracy. Thank you, Luís.
Thank you very much, Jurgens, for your comments on this topic. Steve, would you like to share your thoughts on this? I remember you have a very good experience, not as particularly extracting data from for AI, but to, for example, OCRing actually analog data to input on digital platforms. So if you have any thoughts on this, it would be much appreciated.
Sure. I agree very much with Jurgens. I love the analogy of data is the foundation of any AI system, and it just collapses without it. And people don't really appreciate that much of the hard work of building a complex, useful AI system is the underlying data way before any AI is involved at all. I feel somewhat validated. I was fortunate enough to be with a number of people 15 years ago in the U.S. Congress, at least, and I know it happened around the world too, where we said we've got these these functional websites, and we've got all this data, and we've got a lot of the data is only available internally, even though it should be public record. And so there was a big push, and it took many more years than I thought to open data. But I feel like once AI hit the scene, I feel very validated because if we had not done that work and pushed for open data, we'd be in a much worse place right now. Because one of the reasons it took many years to release machine readable public data from Congress, and of course I'm generalizing because there's tons of data, but this is, for us, it's mostly our congress.gov website, which is all the bills and amendments and members and legislative actions and committees, and it doesn't have much video. I'll touch on that in a minute, but one of the hardest parts about, they couldn't release it right away, and it took many years because it actually was kind of a mess even internally. It was in PDFs, and it was in paper first. It took many years, and it's still a process to sort of get the institution to realize that updating the digital data source is perhaps more important and timely than updating a paper that gets, shown to a couple people on the floor, but nobody, that doesn't reach the world. And so it's an ongoing struggle. And Fotios, to a point you made about the, moving forward and moving back, I think we were a little disadvantaged that we had fairly sophisticated websites and everything built in the 90s that were all PDFs and legacy and it's very hard to sort of upgrade those. I'm sort of a little bit envious of parliaments that perhaps were able to skip that. The analogy I always think of is skipping landlines and going right to mobile phones. It'd save you a whole bunch of work. So that's all. I would say one thing I want to note on Jurgens' presentation was the digital rights management. We have had that discussion quite a bit, and I would just point out that it's often, in my experience, been used as a barrier to releasing data and organizing. And so I would just caution that it's pretty hard when publicly released open to maintain any digital rights. And we've been more successful when we sort of don't worry about that and release. Just a little advice and a little pushback on that point. But yes, I think Luís' example that he wanted me to mention is, when we're in real time and doing votes in our chamber, we never released in data how much time is left in a vote and what the current scoreboard is, which everyone could see on TV, but there was no data. But I had built an app that was very popular with members and staff that needed that data because we needed app-style alerts, like when votes are called and when votes are almost done, and et cetera. And so we just sort of hacked it, which is just we took screenshots of the video and we just OCR'd to get the data right out of the video screen. It's a good example because it was a fun little hack that really was very useful to members and staff, and it was so useful that within a few years of implementing that hack, and then when our institution could see that our members were actually using it on the floor, even or everywhere, they realized the value and they started releasing the data in machine readable. So it was a win. So we didn't have to do that for a long time. We only had to do it to prove the point that it was important data that should be released in machine readable format. So that's a fun little example. I would say, one thing we're getting a lot of success at with data is so much of it is still that isn't been publicly released is sort of messy on the inside. And so my team has gotten really good at, what those that are listening that are technical probably know about, but other people don't know. It's called ETL jobs. So this is big in data. It's extract, transform, load. It basically means we got all these jobs that run every night that sort of pull data from these old systems, that maybe systems that all they can do is sort of export a CSV or something. And we pull from all of them maybe every night, and then we transform the data into modern formats, and then we load it in modern stacks with like APIs. So this is sort of a technical bridge between the old data and the new data. And we've been using that more and more. Now, of course, we should just upgrade the underlying systems that the old data lives in, but that's easier said than done. So this is a nice intermediary step that we're having a lot of success. So some of the examples on that is we've built some products recently for our staff and members on a unified calendar. Even our videos are very disorganized. They're all across different YouTube channels. There's not even a central video place. And so we use ETL to sort of pull all that stuff and pull it into one place, which is a very nice, clean implication. Another one we've done is a staff directory just for all of it. It seems silly, but we've never had a good to know who all the 12,000 current staff of the House of Representatives are and who works for who. And so now we have an ETL job that pulls from the security badge system, which is just, it even has photos of everyone. And it also pulls from the payroll to know exactly who's on payroll. And it pulls from the Microsoft Active Directory to know all the emails. But then the ETL job every night, it condenses those in a smart way. And then we have clean, modern data of actually who is the staff for every office. So the data work is ongoing, but I think AI really validates all the work that we've done for years on data, and it hopefully will accelerate it. And hopefully that means we'll be better funded to do more modern data and everything, because certainly the potential with AI is significant.
Thank you very much, Steve. Much appreciated for you sharing your ideas and the very interesting examples. Vishu, I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts on this. You had a significant experience on this particular project in the Parliament of India. If I'm not mistaken, you had to work on with nearly 20,000 hours of VHF videos before actually implementing the platform. Please feel free to share your thoughts with us about these challenges.
Exactly. So, yes, exactly. It's a challenge converting legacy data into a machine readable data format. So here, what it was. Hello. So, in fact, they were around because this live telecast started in the Parliament of India since '92. So they had some 20 to 20,000 hours of video, and they wanted it to be searchable, retrievable, and to be at one platform. So for that, we made a website, a different website, and all these videos have been uploaded with of course, with the AI solutions, with their search and retrieval. And so how they had done is they had also, of course, they had those microfilms, VHS, and the cassettes, and all those sort of things. So they invited and all these technology firms, and they got it converted into MP4 format, which they handed over to us, and we did applied the solution to it. And not only these videos, I have been to a state and working with the state legislative assembly also. So they have records of tax records I'm talking about since 1924, and until 1966 they have already finished its digitization. So digitization is one part, and I'll tell you, and those, and in their library, these text, these PDFs, either it was earlier they were scanned copies or typewritten copies, or they were all PDFs, but they were beautifully hard bounded and kept in the library and are in very proper shape till now. So they are all digitizing it, and and the other part is which we worked upon for regarding this Parliament videos. This is a software which we developed, was synchronization of this official debate text, which we found in their record, in their books, in the text form, with the videos. So that was the challenging part, but we are successful, and now you get the timestamped videos on the queries.
So thank you very much, Vishu, for your comments on this on this very important
And-
matter and project.
And now OCR technology is very advanced. It's very advanced. Like you can read those unreadable formats also. So it's quite advanced. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vishu, for sharing this very interesting case. The first time I heard you had worked through this many hours of debates, I was very impressed. Working with this amount of legacy information, even more so in video, it's very significant. And if you colleagues allow me, I'd like to go off protocol here, because I saw there is a question from a colleague here from the Parliament of Kenya, which I found very interesting. So if you allow me, I'd like to bring it to the floor for your consideration. She says her name is Lorna Okachi. I apologize if I made a mistake on the pronunciation. She's from the Parliament of Kenya. She asked, how should parliaments balance transparency and accessibility with the need to protect against cyber threats, data breaches, and misinformation risks in citizen interfaces? Maybe we follow the same order. Fotios, would you like to share your thoughts on what the colleague from the Parliament of Kenya mentioned?
Sure. I would like to say to dear Lorna that she has to follow the follow-up cybersecurity panel, because it's a whole different world there, dear Lorna. So this is not a new thing. The balance between openness, data openness, open systems, open and virtually open societies, and the security and the safety of such systems against any type of adversaries is not new. It's very, very old. Of course, this becomes very important nowadays, because the very powerful systems like the AI advanced based systems that we use to fuel our decision-making processes, to reach out to constituents, to communicate with the electorate, the same systems, the same powerful systems are being used by the enemies of the state, by the enemies of democracy, by our adversaries. So still the balance needs to be maintained. This means nothing else, for my humble understanding, that as much as we invest in the advancement of digital systems, the same amount of investment and more we need to do for securing and maintaining the security in these systems. This means special algorithmic tools, special AI security, AI-based cybersecurity systems. This means highly educated and well-trained physical employees, not only digital entities protecting our systems, actual high-level engineers, software engineers, cybersecurity engineers, safeguarding our systems. I don't think that there is any particular thing that we hide here. The investment on cybersecurity virtually will define the level and the level of quality that we offer to our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fotios, for your comments. Jurgens, would you like to comment on this question from the colleague?
Yes, thank you, Luis. Yeah, I think maybe an example is the important thing, again, from a systems perspective, is create the infrastructure first. I haven't mentioned that in our preparation work, but that's where everything starts, is to make sure that you've got systems that are secure, that are robust in terms of security. Just to give you an example, we have implemented Copilot with Microsoft 365. Next step is to open up Copilot so that Copilot can access our internal documents on SharePoint server. The first step that we took was to say, let's run a robust security check on all our systems to see what areas are vulnerable, what can be accessed, what can't be accessed, what has got all the right controls in place before we started opening up with Copilot to access that information. And that's a principle that applies across all the work that we are doing, is you first make sure that your infrastructure is in place, that it's secure before you continue. In terms of customer-facing interfaces that we're talking about today, I think you can keep your documentation on a separate infrastructure where it can be have its own security features. It still have to be secure in terms of to prevent it from being hacked, from being manipulated in ways that you don't want to. So that would be my recommendation, is make sure your infrastructure team is on board, and that is the first step you take in any AI related endeavor.
Thank you, Jurgens. Steve, would you like to comment on this question as well?
Sure. I agree, like what Fotios said about, of course, you have to invest in cybersecurity and protect the systems that face the public and the public uses. But in terms of the transparency and release of information versus especially risks of like misinformation, I just want to speak to that point. It's a little bit related to the digital rights management. It's sort of what I was hinting at. When we first, 12, 15 years ago, when we first started releasing legislative data in bulk and machine readable, we had a large internal argument about digital signatures on PDFs. In retrospect, it's kind of silly, but that wasted a lot of time and money, like looking into that, and we ended up not doing it. And I think it's been okay. Because of you're never going to be able to stop people from lying, so the misinformation. But as long as you have a solid record of truth, where people can verify if this, then it doesn't matter if people lie. So we're having the same conversations now with video that we did 12 years ago. There's been talk about how to embed watermarks, like on authentic keys on videos, to prove that a video that's replicated all across social media and everything is not faked by AI. I think that's just a losing battle that you're never going to win. I think AI is wonderful at making fake videos. It tricks everyone. And people are, in all of history, lie a lot, especially in politics, and they always will. So I think instead the focus should be on having a verifiable public, truthful record. So like I said on video, we currently are not organized. We're so disorganized across a whole bunch of different YouTube channels that are run by the different committees and different parties. We don't have a single all-house video, which I think would be very important to fight misinformation. And now, of course, we'd have to secure it. We'd have to make sure nobody could hack it, of course. But if somebody on TikTok or whatever sees a video of some member and they're like, did he really say that? It should be really easy for the member of the public to go to an official source and to find out if they really said that or not. And we unfortunately don't really have that right now. If I saw a fake TikTok of some random member, I would be able to find, because I work in Congress and work on video, but the average member would not be able. It's just too hard to find that authoritative source. So I think that should be the focus, is that create easy to use authoritative sources for all the congressional records: the text, the videos, the transcripts, the bills, the amendments. And so that if anyone lies about it, well, you can always just and then make it as user-friendly as possible so that anyone in the public can actually verify these things. So I think that's the important point here.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your comments. Vishu, would you like to comment on this question from the colleague as well? You're on mute, sir.
Sorry. In fact, this data protection or cyber protection has to be introduced at the very design stage, not to be bolted later. So all precautions like secure cloud, using unbiased algorithms, and other security threats which we feel that it might happen in the future. So we take precautions all in the beginning itself. So this is my idea.
Thank you very much.
And regarding citizens, we should use minimum of their data if we are using it in any case. Like whatever we require, we should use that, not much of it.
Thank you very much, Vishu, for your comments. Allow me to read my next question, starting with you, Fotios, if you allow me. Parliaments generate, as we discussed in our first questions, massive volumes of data, but from different sources, different business areas from the Parliament, if we may say. And all of them with opportunities for greater access from citizens. And my question to you is, in your view, which citizen interfaces platforms should be prioritized for modernization with AI to achieve the greatest impact on public access to parliamentary information? In that sense, what I'm trying to extract here as your impression is, which information area would be the most interesting and relevant and appropriate to integrate with these AI interfaces for citizen interface?
Well, I try to understand the question. The thing is that, as mentioned earlier by lots of my colleagues, there is no homogeneous necessity for these kind of services or for citizen parliament interaction. Hence, the interface might vary here, might be different in Europe, where citizen engagement might be a little bit higher ranked or more wanted by the civic society compared to, I don't know, maybe Africa or parts of Asia. So, as a matter of fact, this is a supply and demand thing. The Parliament, which is sort of their job, or the elected representatives of the people, they send society. As a matter of fact, they need to tell to the Parliament, to guide the Parliament, what kind of interfaces it has to build. So, because the Parliament, I mean, as an institution, it does not have any means or any tools to decide top down which interface to prioritize or what kind of tools to build. This has to be done to be built up sort of bottom up. The citizens or through the elected representatives, this information has to enter the Parliament. This is, if I understand this correctly. And then the Parliament now, in an institutional manner, has to take over, meaning it has to elaborate on how to build this, figure out who the best possible vendors are, what are the best possible technologies, and if it actually has the data and which data to collect and what to do with the data. This is then an institutional process. But the interface, the definition of the interface and the decision of the tools, I would say intuitively now that this has to come from society upwards instead of top down from the Parliament and being imposed on the people, on the civic society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fotios, for your comments on this. Jurgens, would you like to share your thoughts as well?
Yes, thank you. If we think in terms of systems architecture, every parliament has a number of potential citizen-facing interfaces. I think about social media channels, mobile apps, open data portals, etc., etc. But if I had to identify the one that should be prioritized for modernization, it would be the official normal parliamentary website. That site is the front door of the institution. It is the first point of contact for most citizens who wants to understand what is happening, and whether they're following a bill, checking on a committee, or looking for opportunity to participate, that's the first point of contact. And in any system, strengthening the main point of entry has the greatest immediate impact. But here's where systems thinking matters. Before we layer AI onto that front door, we need to make sure the underlying data flows are sound. AI is only good as the input it received. If the website is populated without data reports, inconsistent or uncategorized content, or information that is not updated in real time, then no matter how sophisticated AI overlay is, it will deliver unreliable outputs. And in parliamentary context, unreliability equals to untrustworthiness. From an enterprise architecture standpoint, that means the first investment is not in the interface, but in strengthening the integrity of the content and ensuring those upstream data pipelines are stable. Once that foundation is in place, modernization can take place and be introduced as a structured way. Imagine a conversational search tool where the citizen can ask, what is the education bill about? And instead of being pointed to a 200-page PDF document, they receive a concise, plain language summary. Or think about an AI-generated digest of lengthy committee debates and reports, material that is technically public, but practically inaccessible to most people who doesn't understand the language. Suddenly becoming much easier to navigate through AI. Or an interactive question and answer, for example, that lets citizens track legislative progress in real time. For example, has this bill been debated? When is the next step? What is the those are the type of questions that AI can easily answer by getting into our information. That is transparency, not just for the principle, but as a lived experience that can really impact on the experience of the citizen themselves. Still, I want to emphasize one point in systems analysis. AI should not be seen as a complementary, or AI should be seen as a complementary system, not a replacement of the whole. None of these tools should substitute for human interaction, or substituting parliamentary staff or existing channels of democratic engagement. Democracy is not a chatbot. AI can assist, it can guide, it can simplify, but it cannot carry the institutional responsibility of representation and accountability. So, Louis, in my view, the modernization journey should begin with the website, not by rushing into flashy tools, but by making it smarter, clearer, and more interactive on a foundation of structured, verified, and trustworthy data. That way, every digital touch point between Parliament and the system reinforces, and it does not erode trust in the institution. Ultimately, that trust is a true system outcome we should be optimizing for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jurgens, for your comments. Steve, would you like to comment on the same question?
Sure. I love those examples, Jurgens, of a member of the public having to condense information. I think that is where I am most excited. If I zoom out and I think about the potential for AI and interactions between the public and the legislature, I see the best way to break it down is which direction. And I think I think the most work is going to be done in the direction of information coming from parliaments to the public. And that's a lot of the examples that Jurgens just gave. I think that is where hopefully we can make a real impact and make the work of the parliament more accessible to the public. Because, LLMs are really good at summarizing. They're really good at condensing large amounts of information and making it more accessible. I used to joke when I worked for an MP, member of Parliament, that a lot of job as a staffer is just dumbing things down, making it more accessible. That's an expression we use, dumbing down, to take a very complex bill and put it in one page, that the public could understand and relevant to them. And I think that is, LLMs have great potential there, because the one thing they're very good at is summarization and crunching large amounts of information. So I think that that is going to be where most of the work is, and that's very exciting, and hopefully make it much more relevant, because it's really hard on a current member of the public when they get frustrated with something and they go to the website of their MP or the website of their parliament. There's not an easy way to find exactly what they're hoping for and what topic. It's just too much information, where there's just too many hearings and long transcripts, hours long, and bills that are thousands of pages, and it's just overwhelming. And you need to be almost a lawyer or a expert to understand any of it. So I think that hopefully, through chat interfaces, but also through just better back-end organizing of all this data and better summarizing it and presenting it in accessible formats, I think that's the most promising. That's probably what's most of the work's going to go on. Now, I'm personally more excited about the other direction, about making parliaments more responsive to the public, and that the LLMs present very similar, significant opportunities. So it's the similar problem where you got millions of people in the public that want to voice their opinion to the parliament, but there's no organized, structured way to condense that information, to organize that information, and deliver that information in an official capacity to the members of parliament or the parliament as a whole. And so again, I think LLMs have the power to do that. They're very good at organizing, large batches of communications, and organizing into a condensed report that sort of that counts all the different opinions and makes inferences on that opinion. So I personally am very excited about that. Now, I know from experience that MPs often say they want more input from the public on their official work, but then they don't often invest and work in that. So that second part, the direction of the public to the parliament, I think is much more of a long-term project, but also one that has great promise and has me excited about with AI.
Thank you very much, Steve, for the very insightful comments. Vishu, would you like to comment on this issue as well?
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Luís. My suggestion would be that for the citizen-centric interface or interaction, it has to be on a common platform, a single platform. It shouldn't be spread into various platforms. Say for chatbots, it's different. For say for videos, it's different. So we are working with the state legislative assembly. I'll give you a small example, wherein they are putting all their videos, all their PDFs, all their documents on the same platform. And so people, that serves two purposes. One is that people, they are aware that this is the only platform which is a genuine platform. So they don't get into misinformation also. So there, for that particular platform, there can be text also, there can be videos also, and anything and whatever. And even you can put government's acts, government's bills, government, not only debates, but government bills, government acts, government's amendments, government notifications, everything. So a common man, a general public, they can straightway go visit that particular website, that platform, and can get the clear and the right information. This is what it can be in the form of chatbot, it can be in the form of summarization. And as I would say, like people, they have a very, generally they are reducing their attention to a very small span. Getting my point, like they don't want the video to be scrolled. They would want to go to the very particular moment where they want that information. Same with the PDFs also, with the documents also. They would like a summarized answer for that. So that's my view. That's how it should be.
Thank you very much, Vishu, for your comments on this. For my last question, I saw that our dear friend from the German Bundestag, Martin Kamprad, sent a proposal. Actually, I sent a few questions here, and it's in line with my idea for the closing session. If you allow me, I'll merge these two. My question would be for you on how could we create intuitive and clear systems for citizens to access these public interface platforms in parliaments. To which I love his question is that he proposes us, which is should we be focusing on the citizens itself or on what he's calling the mediators, such as the media and other multipliers with parliamentary information services. And his last point is, in other words, do citizens really approach the parliament's website on the first place to get this information? So maybe you can get a few ideas out of this merge of two questions on the interface being clear and intuitive, if we should be focusing on the citizens or and the multipliers, and in that case, if citizens are even actually going to the parliamentary website for this kind of information. Fotios, would you like to kickstart this final round?
Sure. Also, not suitable for a short response, but I would say the parliaments were never built like this in order to be able to maximize the selling of anything to citizens. So they haven't learned to sell their information to anybody, citizens, stakeholders alike. On the other hand, the ones that did learn to sell products to customers, evidently, is the private sector. So if parliaments are interested in maximizing their fingerprint, their impact to their stakeholders, they just have to look how the private sector is doing this. And there are entire sectors of professions that are exactly built around how to approach the customer, which in the case of the parliaments is very specific. It's civic society and its agglomerations. I mean, citizen groups, interest groups, and so on. So there are typically, I mean, we learned this at school and in the university. You have to do human-centered design, first of all. Then you have to do specific usability tests. You have to build, if it is software what you build, you need to build it inclusive. You need to build it in an accessible way. There are standards for this. And then it has to be multilingual, and also depending on the context, on the national context, there might be minorities. It has to be able. You have to be able as an institution to approach all these people in an equal way. So this is not easy to solve. You have to do the tests. You have to build interfaces according to these studies that you have performed. You have to build, as we have heard before, you have to structure your digital architecture after that. You have the information process. It needs to be according to your studies. It needs to be explainable, maybe. So how do you want to feed your people with certain information if, when asked, you're not able to say how this information came about? So these systems might need to be explainable, with again means something for the infrastructure on how to build that. Current AI systems, generative AI systems, are by no means explainable. And so on and so forth. So there, the essence of my intervention here would be, one would need not to reinvent the wheel. The parliaments do not have to think all this by themselves. But at the same time, they need to invest serious energy and capacity and resources into trying to transfer this capacity from sectors where it exists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fotios, for your question, your answer on this topic. Jurgens, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yes, thank you. I think when we think about Parliament, I must give in the question that was asked by the person more personal view than necessarily a parliamentary view, and that is that the citizen is the one that we are representing. So that is the primary contact that we want to make available so that they can be informed. Yes, the other intermediaries are important and they should not be neglected, but you must enable the citizen to be able to access the information. This question, Louis, takes us to the technical, or from the technical into the human-centered side of systems design. And that's exactly where it belongs, because no matter how advanced our technology becomes, citizens only benefit if the interface is clear, if it's intuitive and trustworthy. I think those are the words that you used as well. It must adhere to some principles to do that. The first principle is that I would like to highlight is clarity. And this is not just clarity for the interface layout, but clarity of the language that we used. Stefan alluded to that earlier in his answer already. Too often parliamentary systems is written in language of legislators and administrators, dense of jargon and institutional phrasing. From a systems point of view, that creates friction in the point of human interaction. If AI is going to reduce that friction, it has to speak citizen, the language of the citizen. Again, as Stephen said, not just by dumbing things down, but by translating complex legislative content into a meaningful and an accurate and accessible language. Imagine a parent who just wants to know, how will this bill affect my child's schooling? The platform should give them a clear answer based on their level of question, how it answers the question, without forcing them to decode parliamentary procedures or documents. The second principle is context. The system must be designed so that information is not in isolation and does not have a limited value. It's the connection that creates insight. So an AI-driven interface should not just return a single answer, it should map the ecosystem around that question. If a citizen asks about a bill, the system should also show related debates, linked to committee hearings that relates to it, highlight opportunities to participate, etc. So that turns the static query of a person into a guided journey through the legislative process. In general systems theory terms, it helps citizens to navigate the whole rather than the fragments of the system. The third principle is we need to embed trust directly into the design. In a parliamentary environment, citizens are right to be cautious of AI. And that skepticism is not a problem. It is part of the safeguard. So every AI-generated summary, every recommendation should carry metadata with which document it draws from, when that document was updated, and where the citizen can verify the source. Transparency of origin is what separates trustworthy civic platform from a generic chatbot. Without those trust signals, Louis, this system risks eroding confidence instead of building it. Finally, all I want to say is the design process itself must be participatory. In enterprise architecture, we talk about stakeholder-driven design. Here, that means not building for citizens in isolation, but building with them. That requires user testing across different languages, educational levels, the levels of digital literacy. It requires continuous feedback loops so that the platform evolves in response to real citizen needs. To sum it up, sorry, I can just say this. The best AI-driven parliamentary platforms will not be defined by their sophistication, but by their service. They will prioritize understanding over automation, trust over trendiness, relationships over raw functionality. Because in the end, we are not designing interfaces. We are designing points of connection between Parliament and the people it represents. And I think the backward from Parliament to the people and from people to the Parliament bi-directional, that was a very good point that was referenced before. But still, that system must be embodied in trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Jurgens. Thank you very much for your comments. Steve, would you like to comment on this question as well?
Sure. I like the question about whether or not the resources are targeted or built for media and other experts and intermediaries versus directly with the public. And I'd say that over the years in the United States, and as I've heard from being on panels like this and in other countries too, there just hasn't been a lot of investment in these websites and tools. You know, we're chronically underfunding ourselves because politically it's bad to give yourself a raise or to fund more in Congress or the Parliament. So I think as a result, you know, with our very limited funds, we've really just focused on releasing as much data as possible. But it's not been very user-friendly. So therefore, it is only the intermediaries who know how to use it. It's only the media and the academics that are good at our, you know, not great old websites that have all this information on it. I would point out that making websites is easier than ever. AI is fantastic at writing code for front-end websites. Again, the hard part is the data. But once you have the data, making a new front-end user-friendly interface is easier than ever and cheaper than ever. So I do hope that next generation parliamentary systems powered by AI, both in writing them but also in the functionality of them, can be much more focused on the actual citizen rather than intermediaries. I think a good example is a lot of our older members of the United States Congress, they still, when they want to release information, they do press releases, very formal, old press release. But the younger members, they don't do press releases. They go right on TikTok and, like, you know, very immediate. And they get the information out immediately to social media, directly to the public, not through intermediaries like the press. And I think 10 years ago, I was very excited about the opportunities from social media for reaching the public directly by members of the parliament. But now I'm not at all. Like, I'm much more negative on social media because, you know, the algorithms just benefit the extremes, and it just they are much darker, worse place than they were even just you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and on all these different social networks. So I think that also is a great opportunity for the actual institutions to create our own useful spaces and opportunities for the public to weigh in on legislation in a constructive way, rather than where they mostly get their information now, which is social media, and just not a good place lately. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. Vishu, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yes, Luis. So in my view, this particular platform, it can be, or interface, it can be used by all stakeholders. Like for example, stakeholders could be constituents of an MP seat, or could be media, or could be general public, anyone. So it should have, like, for example, what we have done is that we haven't used any, for this particular site, we prepared this site, we developed this site. So there is no password or login for that. So anyone who's interested, say, for example, I want to know about my MP, what he said about bullet train, or what he said about green data center or something. So I can straight away go and get the knowledge, okay, this is it. So this is what he has said. Secondly, now, as the dear panelist has also said, this language, especially this complex bills and budgets, it's not understandable to common, in general jargon, to common people. So AI would definitely help in summarizing all those and giving it in a common man's language, the reply. And thirdly, the attention span generally of people have reduced, being their attention span has reduced. So summarization and all those things would definitely will take it way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vishu, for your comments. Colleagues, I want to be respectful with your time. I see we passed a little bit over 1 minute, but I want to give you the opportunity to say a farewell message. Please, in 30 seconds, so we don't pass too much the due time. Fotios, would you like to say your farewell message for colleagues in today's panel?
Thank you, Luis. I think the topic of today was of particular interest because it touches the interface between Parliament and civic society. And it is very important because the game has changed since the new tools that are being propelled by artificial intelligence came about. As many people thought, and it is truly so, these new goodies do not come at no cost. We need new infrastructure. We need to safeguard them appropriately. This also involves fighting against any adversaries, but also protect from disinformation and misinformation, which at the same time means that we need to build trusted systems. People need to trust them. And trust is maybe the biggest asset a government can be for its citizens. Can have for its citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fotios, for your participation and for your comments. Jurgens, would you like to, in 30 seconds, share your farewell message as well?
Thank you, Louis. Yeah, first, thank you to the other panel members for the insights. I really enjoyed, and I feel honored to be part of this panel for all the insights that has given. Louis, if I reflect on the discussion, I want to emphasize that while AI offers real value for citizen interfaces, it is not a silver bullet. The public interface of Parliament carries a special weight, yes, but it must be engendered with trust, as was said by the previous speaker. That means any AI solution must be carefully planned. It must be secured, it must be tested and trained before it is placed in front of citizens. I do not believe AI today is ready to replace human contact. At its best, it can augment and support it, but generative AI can be unpredictable even in controlled scenarios, which is why transparency is not negotiable. When AI is used, citizens must know it, and they must be able to see the source documents, which answers, well, from where the answers were derived. They must be able to verify that information. And finally, I think we must not invest in replacing our people with AI, but in increasing their capacity to work beside AI systems that are emotionally intelligent. Because citizens don't just want accurate answers, they want engagement that feels real and that feels caring. In designing our systems, the technology should serve as a bridge, but the human connection must always remain our firm foundation.
Thank you very much, Jurgens, as well, for your comments and for your participation today. Steve, would you like to share your farewell message also in 30 seconds, please?
Yeah, just thank you very much to Bússola and to my fellow panelists. Really appreciate this opportunity to learn from all of you and share my experience. And this is an exciting topic. I think it's interesting that even though we're multiple years now into this AI era, things are really still just getting started in this front, especially in the topic of today with citizen-facing tools. So it's great to share notes, and hopefully we will do so again in the future. And I think in a year or so, or maybe two, a lot of these ideas will be in place, and it'll be very exciting to continue the discussion. And so thank you again, Bússola, for the facilitating the unique opportunity to collaborate with other parliaments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for your comments and for your participation today. Vishu, would you like to share your farewell message also in 30 seconds?
Yeah, thanks, Luis. It was a great interaction and a learning experience from the panelists. And I would say, like, introduction of AI technology or technology, it's not just about technology. If used ethically, if used properly, it's reimagining how institutions like Parliament can serve people, serve its citizens responsibly and inclusively and with transparency. That's what I would like to say. Thank you so much. It was fun. It was very enjoyable and a learning experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all of you colleagues, for the very insightful discussion. I learned a lot today.